here with Christian Suwana, who's Senior Vice President of Business Development for Traveloka. Now, Traveloka, you can be forgiven for not having heard of Traveloka. They are Indonesia's biggest and one of Southeast Asia's biggest online travel agencies, and it recently received a 350 million investment from Expedia, which was, let me check my notes to get this correct, a primary minority investment. So Expedia thinks Traveloka rocks because they've just invested 350 million into it. So delighted to have Christian with us. So
thanks for having me.
Christian, maybe just sort of give us a sort of beginner's guide to the Indonesian online travel market.
Traveloka, we operate in Southeast Asia, and I think when you look at Southeast Asia, it's hard to overlook Indonesia as a key geography. It's a very big country with about 260 million population.
So
260 million people
in Indonesia.
And on a daily basis, there's 130 million people accessing the internet. So a lot of the digital lifestyle, mobile apps adoption are starting to pick up, and as well as smartphone penetration. We're at around, depending on what report you see, around 20-23% of smartphone adoption in Indonesia. So things are going pretty exciting. And I think technology in Indonesia has been also the driving factor behind sort of the shift into the leisure economy trend. I think if you think about it, nowadays to travel in Indonesia, technology makes it very easily accessible and to a certain extent very affordable. In Traveloka, you could find it in our app, all the different types of solutions for your travel, as well as with the advent of low-cost carriers, hotels there, budget hotels, and attraction activities products that ranges from something as expensive as helicopter tour to something very affordable as just walking tour. I think it helps to spur that growth as well. In the industry itself, I think traveling or tourism for Indonesia has recently risen into the second largest contributor for the economy, just second to crude palm oil, and this was in 2000 and before 2016. Travel was only the fourth one. So I think there's a lot of positive indication about how...
and this is primarily domestic travel within Indonesia?
Yeah, primarily still domestic. We do have outbound travelers from Indonesia as well, ranging around 7 million, 8 million visitors going outbound. But a lot of the Indonesians actually travel within domestically as well.
Okay, and you offer a full product set for the domestic travelers from rail...
Correct.
Flights, tours and attractions.
Yes.
Okay.
All different suites of product, from the core product, flight, hotel. We recently expanded to train, to flight plus hotel, to connectivity. So a lot of different options, things to do as well, attractions, activities.
Okay, I know recently, just before the Expedia investment, you launched a flight plus hotel product, and I talked to you about, your colleagues about it at the time, and that was from a sort of consumer demand and to a sort of Western market. Flight plus hotel is a relatively straightforward purchase. But I mean, what were the challenges that you have in sort of doing a flight plus hotel in the same transaction? What's the difficulty with that?
So we launched Flight Plus Hotel in, I think, mid of 2017. And I think so far, we're pretty happy with the results. I think we've got some positive feedback as well from the customers. I think it shows our seriousness in really evolving into a one-stop booking platform where we offer anything from flight, hotel, attraction activities, packages, connectivity. We want Traveloka to be associated with as a place for people to find whatever they need, right? Whenever they want to travel. But I think we're also aware this is the first iteration of the product, which we call it MVP.
Call it, sorry, what?
MVP, minimum viable product, just like to test the market, to see how the reception is. And we've gotten many feedback from our customers. There's definitely a lot of areas for improvements that we are learning as we talk with our customers, engaging them, understanding what really is your customer pain point, what really is your need when you want to buy bundled products like this. And we're sort of taking it in and sort of building it into our strategy every time we want to iterate and continuing to innovate on that Flight Plus Hotel product. But yeah, it's a pretty exciting endeavor so far.
Okay, and is this something you're building yourself, or are you tapping into the Expedia partnership? Because I think you worked with Expedia before the investment, so I'm just wondering the balance between your own sort of proprietary tech stuff that you're developing yourself and you're partnering with other tech providers.
Yeah, I think in terms of technology, we built most of our technology in-house. So in this case, a lot of the legwork was done by our team as well. From the supply side was done by the Traveloka team. But I wouldn't be surprised if there are certain hotels outside the region that we are operating in, maybe in Europe area, in the US area where Expedia is stronger, where we perhaps the supply team did some arrangements in order to present the best value for the customer in Flatbush Hotel.
Okay, and just sort of generally, I mean, you're sort of based in Indonesia, but you're operating across sort of Southeast Asia, so that's Indonesia, Philippines.
Yeah.
I mean, what are sort of the challenges in sort of expanding in that specific region?
Yeah. So people say there's one Asia, one Southeast Asia, but to be frank, if you look at it closely, all these different countries behave very differently. They have different market structure, market composition, customer behavior. So actually growing into these areas is quite a challenge for us. But I think, like for example, Indonesia, right? It's an archipelago. There's many islands scattered around, people of different ethnicities, and sort of imbalance of economic growth that are concentrated in Java area and generally less outside of Java. And that creates some kind of nuances that you have to take into account. And that's only in Indonesia, not to mention Philippines or Thailand or Singapore, Malaysia and Vietnam, the 6 countries that we operate in. But I think for us, the key success factor is really to go global, which is to apply a global mindset, but to locally execute. And for example, through payment methods, right? We go to these countries, we try to understand what are the popular and most widely accepted payment methods that would create less friction for a customer when they're transacting in us. And we try to understand that and integrate it into our product proposition for the customers in that market. Same way with customer service. If we understand that their receptiveness towards English-speaking customer service is probably less in certain countries, then we develop customer service. It informs our decision whether or not to develop a specific customer service for that country.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I certainly know that we do quite a lot of work with payment providers on tnoooz, and certainly for a sort of Western European market, it's basically Visa or MasterCard, and that's it. Your payment providers are sorted. But I think it's slightly more complicated for you across
more
Southeast Asia.
Traditional, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, just in terms, I mean, what do you think is the total size of that market? I mean, so those 6 countries you operate in have probably got a population of 700 million. I mean, how much of that do you think could sort of transition online? So I mean, just thinking, what is the online penetration for travel? Is there a sort of tipping point where it could get to? Is it going to be sort of 50%, 30%? I mean, what? I
mean, it's hard to pull a number, but I think the 6 countries that we are operating in already captures a very significant part of the economic potential of the Southeast Asia as a region, right? In terms of, so yesterday I was here and I saw a conference on chatbot on AI, right? And I think for us, I think the time will come, but for us, we're more of taking it on an observation stance, so to speak, right? Because for Indonesia, I think the battle is still about converting people from offline into online. Like a lot of transactions, I think flight is at the forefront of the adoption online, but things like tours activities, for example, a lot of transactions still being done offline, and I think it will take some more years before that tipping point gets reached, and then we probably would see a tipping a shift that you will go like that.
So I mean, it's that minimum viable product thing that you talked about. So it's a very slow progression for Traveloka.
Yeah, I think there are certain areas where it's about us creating the best product, but also you can't force market adoption to a certain extent. You've got to let the market to learn, slowly, and understand that there are things that you can now buy online. And we're kind of like just taking a close monitoring at that and see how it evolves and adjusting our strategy.
Just sort of probably maybe should have asked this earlier, but just in terms of sort of e-commerce generally, and our people is Amazon and eBay and the sort of the major global online e-commerce platforms. Do they, or their Southeast Asian equivalents, do they have any sort of traction in the market, or is it still basically an offline economy? Has it moved to becoming?
So definitely,
online?
I think the online growth as a sector in terms of purchases has been growing very fast, but in total, I don't have the exact figures in my mind, but from my observation, in total, I think a lot of transactions still happens offline. And it's just, I think that culturally, it requires, there's a certain barrier for people from our side of the country to really trust and purchase things online. And that's only one hurdle. Then the second hurdle is what are the payment methods that you will be able to provide them. Credit card penetration is not so big in Indonesia, so e-commerce players need to come up with like smart ways to adopt different payment options to widen out the reach to the customers in Indonesia.
Okay, well look, that's fascinating. I mean, I just think sort of like the growth profile of Southeast Asia with 700 million people is just astounding. But as you say, it's very much in the early stages. So it's going to be interesting to watch the extent to how quickly it's going to grow and where that growth is going to go.
A lot of potential from here, right? A lot of opportunity.
We Expedia's investment is a sort of testimony to the growth potential of the region and of course to Traveloka.
Yeah, so we're very thankful for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, that's fascinating. I've enjoyed that. Thanks very much.